You've spent weeks staring at screens, highlighting chapters, and grinding through all of that prep material. You are exhausted. Finishing that mandatory 63-hour Florida pre-license course is a major milestone, but it's important to remember that the end-of-course certificate is a prerequisite for the state exam, not a guarantee you'll pass it. Think about the investment so far. Between the course fees, the $89 DBPR application, and the $80 fingerprinting fee, you've already committed nearly $500 to this new career. That's a significant amount of skin in the game. Yet, historical data shows that roughly half of the candidates who sit for the Pearson VUE exam fail on their first try. The pass rate typically sits between 47 and 51%. The difficulty doesn't stem from the material being impossible to learn. It usually comes down to how candidates choose to distribute their study time. Passing this exam requires you to focus your remaining study hours on the specific areas that carry the most weight on test day. Many candidates try to prepare by taking free practice quizzes found online, or by attempting to reread their entire 600-page textbook from start to finish. The problem with generic national quizzes is that they often skip the specific Florida statutes that make up nearly half of your actual exam. This chart shows the exact breakdown: 45 questions on national concepts, 45 questions on Florida-specific law, and 10 questions focused on real estate math. You need 75 points to pass. If your prep neglects the Florida-specific rules and the math section, you are guessing on 55% of the test. Relying on free, generic tools leaves your results up to chance. It means walking into the testing center without having mastered the specific data you'll actually be graded on. Pearson VUE evaluates you across 19 content areas. However, some chapters are worth significantly more points than others. 4 specific topics deserve the bulk of your attention: brokerage activities, contracts, financing, and the brokerage business intro. Mastering just these 4 areas accounts for roughly 40% of the total points available on the exam. Focusing your effort here means you can afford to be less certain about lower weight categories, like property management, which offer fewer points for the same amount of study time. This approach provides a clear path to reaching that 75-point passing threshold as efficiently as possible. Trying to memorize every chapter with equal intensity often leads to running out of time. Your study plan should mirror the actual point values assigned by the state. Let's look closer at the 45 Florida-specific questions. This is where generic study materials can actually lead you to the wrong answer. You may need to set aside some of the broad national rules you've seen on general flashcard sites. Florida has unique legal requirements that contradict common practices in other states. A perfect example is how Florida handles brokerage relationships. In Florida, a licensee is presumed to be a transaction broker unless a different relationship is established in writing. This specific concept is a staple of the exam and often trips up people using out-of-state materials. Florida also has very rigid timelines for things like escrow deposits, specifically the 3 business day rule, which you need to know exactly as it's written in the statutes. Using generic study materials can accidentally program you with correct answers for the wrong state, which directly lowers your score. Many candidates worry most about the 10 real estate math questions. These questions are less about high-level calculation and more about recognizing predictable formulas that repeat every single time. The T-bar method is the standard tool for solving commission and percentage problems. You place the part on top, then divide it by the whole multiplied by the rate on the bottom. Since you'll be using a dry erase board during the exam, you should practice sketching these formulas manually rather than just reading about them. Once you recognize these patterns, you can secure those 10 math points with a high degree of confidence. Getting a perfect score on the math section significantly reduces the number of questions you need to get right in the law and national sections to pass. You have a choice. You can continue trying to piecemeal your preparation through free quizzes, or you can use a targeted study guide designed for the 2026 Florida exam. The Noble Notary Florida Real Estate Exam Study Guide costs $14.97. This 31-page PDF provides 75 original practice questions written for the Florida exam, step-by-step math walkthroughs, and quick reference tables for Chapter 475. Contrast that $14.97 with a retake. If you fail your first try, Pearson VUE charges $36.75 for every additional attempt. Beyond the money, Failing the first time carries a mandatory 24-hour waiting period and adds weeks of additional study stress before you can actually start working. Using a focused guide reduces the risk of these retake fees and helps you keep your momentum toward getting your license activated. If you have plenty of time and prefer digging through 600-page textbooks to find the facts yourself, you might not need this guide. But if your time is limited and you want to ensure you're studying only what is actually tested, this is the most direct path. You can find the link in the description to download the 31-page guide and start your final review. Once you have it, focus on the practice questions, memorize the math formulas, and aim for 75 or higher. The goal is to move past the exam and into the field. Considering the average first commission for a new agent is over $5,000, passing on your first attempt helps you reach that milestone sooner. Stop guessing with generic study tools. Secure your first try pass and get your real estate career started today.